Hailing frequencies open and welcome aboard Treks and Tangents. I'm your co-host Brian.
And I'm your co-host Jackie. I'm the Star Trek newbie who treks off on tangents.
And I'm your Star Trek expert who's here to get the tangents back on track. Each episode we watch and talk about a different Star Trek episode. And this week we watched
Star Trek, the original series, Season 1, Episode 1, The Man Trap.
And as always, we are going to start our episode with last week's Turbolift tease or elevator pitch. That's where we gave Jackie the title of this week's episode, and without any other information or having seen the episode before, Jackie guessed the episode of the plot. And Jackie's Turbolift tease, and I quote, I can envision some giant plant alien calling like a siren and then grabbing some officer. And then they all fall down and then someone saves them.
I nailed it.
You think you nailed it?
Totally did.
I mean, yeah, I got to give you credit for this one. You really did. She does kind of entice them like a siren. She does pull them in.
She's green.
She's green like a plant. And they do, of course, all fall down. So, no, I think you nailed it this time. So, but what did you think of this week's episode, Jackie?
Oh, I understood what I was watching, actually.
Yeah, but let's roll it back because we were supposed to record this 2 days ago. And when it came time to record, it was, are you ready? And your response was, I don't know what episode I'm watching. What are we doing? What happened? We're supposed to be on episode 2. Episode 2 is not what I thought it was or I remember watching before because you forgot that last week's episode, The Cage, was episode 0. It was the failed pilot. So we had to postpone for a couple days while you caught up and watched the correct episode. So once you figured out what episode we were supposed to watch, you understood it this time?
Yes, I did. And I remembered, oh yeah, I already watched this. I understood more because I obviously got it confused with other things and other shows.
Yeah, because you had watched, did you watch all of next week's episode by mistake?
No, I started it and I didn't understand what I was watching, and then I got it confused with SG1.
Yeah, our test episodes or our television show we used for our testing and formatting of the podcast.
So I really went on a tangent.
Yeah. And those test episodes you of course can find on our Patreon at patreon.com/treksandtangent.
I think they're still fun.
Yeah. Well, we always talked about doing a continuation of that series. So
yeah.
But I mean, yeah, and you also had mentioned off mic that this was a simpler episode than The Cage. There was a lot there's a lot less to it, and yeah, my cliff notes in fact definitely are much shorter than they usually are, for sure. I like it. We'll get into it a little bit later, but this definitely is a much simpler episode. It is very straightforward. It's something that's easily to digest as a viewer. I think it's straightforward. There's really nothing complicated about it.
Well, yeah, especially compared to 0 when we had a lot of information thrown at us at one time to kind of like, hey, look at all this new stuff you're going to learn about this new show. And then it flopped. But this number 1, they kind of like reeled in their ideas.
Yeah.
And I mean, even with the character changes, the actors, I think it could have been fine with the other actors too. But I do like the new setup.
Yeah, we get a whole new cast of characters for this episode. We don't have Pike. We have Kirk. We don't have Yeoman. We don't have.
But I heard that word.
Yeoman is definitely the rank.
Oh, so Janice is. I know she's in the further on, but she's like someone's like yeoman.
Yeah, assistant.
Oh, okay.
Assistant to an officer. We just referred to that character in the first episode as Yeoman because
she didn't have a name.
She didn't have a name. That was literally how she was referred to, was her rank. So, but we don't.
That makes more sense.
We don't have Yeoman. We don't have number 1. That character that the show was almost written for to begin with is completely gone. But we do have Spock.
I love him.
And we get introduced to a couple of the other characters on the way, like Uhura and Sulu and
Gertrude.
The plant?
Yes, I love her.
Okay. Well, don't get too attached to Gertrude the plant. What do you want? You can't have an entire series based off of a hand puppet. That's actually not true. There's been plenty of TV series about hand puppets. I'm thinking of Alf. But
sorry, back to
why? Yeah, back on track. Why don't you walk us through the episode, Jackie?
My favorite part that they added, I don't know if they added it or not, really, but these little captain log, like side narratives, I think that's really a genius aspect to it. Like, instead of just like jumping from scene to scene, it's like we're jumping to a scene, but he's giving commentary. Does that make sense? Like it's current and past at the same time?
Yeah, it's a yeah, I see what you're saying. It's a way to connect the viewer into the scene.
I mean, I have no idea how they're doing time. Like he goes Captain's Log 1513.1
in that exact tone of voice.
Exactly. And they're like going around this planet M113. And I mean, but they're going to this planet because every year the Enterprise has to go check on their people at random planets and make sure they're healthy.
Yeah, they're paying a house call to the
Professor, not McCoy, that's the doctor.
No, try again.
I forgot his name.
That would be archaeologist Robert Crater.
Yes, I knew it was like a rock. But they also call him Professor, so that's why I got confused.
Well, generally, believe it or not, archaeologists are normally professors in some sense.
And so while we're right after the captain's log, we're jumping straight from the Enterprise to the planet, the M113. And it is Captain Kirk, Dr. McCoy, and crewman Darnell.
There you go.
And they just go, beam me over. They arrive at the planet looking for the professor. And of course, the professor is like, why are you here? I am fine. We don't need anything. And we also learn that there is a young woman that the doctor used to date about 10 years ago named Nancy.
Who is now married to Professor Robert Crater.
And I mean, the doctor still pines for dear Nancy.
I wouldn't go that far. I think they ended on decent terms, but they haven't seen each other in that time period. So
they got the fuzzy butterflies.
Yeah, I mean, even Kirk gives Dr. McCoy
for being a princess.
Yeah, a little bit of ribbing by asking him if he wants to go pick flowers when they first arrive to give to Nancy.
And so when they're already in their little rock cave house chatting, and then Nancy arrives, and we don't know why yet, but the doctor sees her as if she's 25 years old, 10 years ago.
Exactly.
She's beautiful.
As she was 10 years before when they were together.
Raven-haired beauty, all of that. And then, of course, he's like, hello. And then the captain sees her as she is. She has gray hair. I mean, she's still a beautiful woman. Come on. But she's, of course, 10 years older.
Right.
And crewman Darnell sees her for some reason as this blonde bombshell. Like, she is stunning and even younger, I would imagine, and coy and flirting with him.
Yeah, a sci-fi pinup.
There you go. And so when she leaves and he follows her, like, oh, okay. But they never explain, though, yet why she's a blonde and everybody else is brunette.
No. And I mean, Darnell goes so far as to, but they do get their first hint as to something's a little bit different. Very subtly, but because Darnell makes the the comment that Nancy looks like, quote, someone he left behind on a pleasure, which, of course, is instantly called out by McCoy and a little bit by Kirk. Not as much by Kirk as I think it should have been. Definitely an inappropriate comment for a Starfleet officer to make.
Sounds like a reality TV show.
Right. But that's where Kirk has Darnell step outside as kind of a, hey, you did something you shouldn't have. Why don't you just go outside?
Oh, that makes sense. And Nancy, of course, is like, I'll go. But she does call the doctor Plum. So there is a little back, hint.
Yes.
What a cute little name. And then the opening credits come.
Well, specifically first, Nancy goes outside, finds Darnell, and then Darnell still sees her as the blonde, and Nancy inappropriately flirts with Darnell and gets him to follow her away from the pyramid home of the archaeologist. So that's because that's important for later. That's how Darnell ends up being separated. And then we have the opening credits.
And then we have, again, more Captain's Log after the... I actually liked the opening credits. It was entertaining and not too much. Of course, we're going to get like the flashback of characters or whatever, but I guess it's a sci-fi normal.
Yeah, it's a little long, I think.
Them in the space.
Yeah, when you look at and I'm spoiled. You look at some of the later episodes, there's very similar, not episodes, I should say, later in the different series, The Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager specifically, you have the same style of credits, the same length of credits, but it's more diverse in the scenes that you see and not just the Enterprise, what direction is it coming from next kind of thing. But this is also the 60s. It's impressive for what they had.
Got it. So after the credits, we again have an additional Captain's Log because he always just goes, amendment or addition. And Kirk mentions how everyone is seeing Nancy differently, just like a statement. But then Darnell is gone, and the two are still in the pyramid. And then the professor arrives, and he's angry that they're there to do their job.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Took me a minute to figure out where you were because I stupidly referred to the professor in the first half of my notes as Robert. And then for some reason I switched to Bob. So I'm sitting here going, who the hell's Bob? But now I'm back on track.
I just have been calling him Dr. Crater the whole time because I never really heard his first name.
Yeah.
And I have enough names to remember. And I mean, he's angry and he's like, we don't need anything but some damn salt. And they're like, okay. So they just don't understand why he needs salt. Like, you have 25 pounds of it. Why are you going through so much?
Yeah. And Bob, I think that's the point. Is that the point where he explains that they are almost out of salt? He shows that they're completely...
Yeah, he shakes the little jar. He's all like, I only have this much.
Yeah, and
he talks about a buffalo.
Yeah, and it's this... What?
I don't know.
There is mention of a buffalo in the series, in this episode, like 2/3 of the way through. There's no buffalo here.
Oh, well, just kidding.
So
Sorry.
It's explained that they need the salt for hydration. It is a hot, arid planet. They need the salt as a form of electrolytes to stay hydrated. There, we're back on track.
So, yes. And then, of course, they do comment on how Nancy looks different. And Dr. Crater is like, just shush, shuts it down. And then we hear Nancy screaming outside.
Well, hold on. Let's focus a little bit more on that conversation because you are right. That is the first major moment that it's addressed that she looks different. Bob's actually, I think, happy. He mentioned specifically that he's happy that
they notice it?
No, that Bob mentions that he's happy that Nancy gets to see McCoy and actually gets to see someone from her past. He says it's because she's an archaeologist's wife. She is living in isolation. She herself is not an archaeologist, I don't believe. She's a homemaker. So she's living in isolation while Bob gets to pursue his career. So he's happy that she gets a little bit of interaction with others and that it's someone from her past. He's not angry about the past connection McCoy and Nancy have, but he does join in with Kirk because it makes it obvious that Bob sees Nancy in a similar way that Kirk does. Or, as we find out later, he understands that Nancy is changing her appearance for people.
Right.
So Kirk gives McCoy crap over seeing Nancy with rose-tinted lenses, and Bob joins in on that.
Oh, I understand.
So, but then you're right. Then they do hear their conversation is interrupted with screaming from outside.
And they all run out and they finally find her. She's hovered over poor crewman Darnell, and he has perished, it seems. He has red dots, circles, not dots, like suction cup circles, bullseyes even, all over his face, and a green pellet in his mouth that I learned is actually like a plant.
Yeah, they really don't. I think they do a poor job in leading the viewers to understand that what Kirk pulls from Darnell's mouth is supposed to be this poisonous plant that he ate, and that's what caused the circles and killed him, according to Nancy and to Bob for some extent. But it's a very throwaway motion where Kirk reaches into his mouth, finds something, and throws it away. I had to watch it a couple times to get that connection.
Yeah, and I had no idea what it was, and because again later on he's eating the same shaped item like candy. So they need to work on their props.
It probably was the same thing, to be honest. It probably was the same. If
this plant called ambrosia or barosia.
Sure.
It was like ambrosia, the salad, but not.
I don't have in my notes if they called it anything, or I don't remember them referring to it as any particular name except just a plant. But you could be right.
Well, I did jump ahead because that's when Spock was explaining his greatness and how he knew things.
So, and you jumped ahead through that.
I did.
You did.
I did.
We did. We do a podcast about watching television shows, and you jumped ahead.
My apologies.
This is fantastic. I'm learning so much here.
Well, I'm excited. I actually understand what I'm watching.
By jumping ahead.
Well, I'm excited for our listeners.
Okay. I'll accept that. Where the hell were we?
They decide that they're just going to stop because they are concerned about Darnell and his death, and they take the day off and go back to the Enterprise so that they can come back later once they figured out what's happening because they don't want anybody else to get harmed.
Right. I remember this part of the scene. This is also,
and of course, get more salt.
And Nancy asked Bob if Bob asked about the salt, and that stands out because someone just died. But I do remember this specifically. Again, this is all leading up to the reveal of what or who Nancy is. In this scene, with everything else going on, Darnell being dead, Kirk ripping candy out of Darnell's mouth, McCoy, you can, as the viewer, it's shown to you that McCoy now sees Nancy not as she was 10 years ago, but aged up to what Kirk sees. He mentions it in a little bit, but
I didn't catch that, but you're right.
Yeah, because McCoy seems almost more shaken about Nancy's change in appearance over the course of a couple minutes than he does about Darnell's death, because I guess McCoy is just a badass and cold-hearted, but...
No, you're right, because you see your bestie from 10 years ago and they look amazing, and then something tragic happens, and now they look like all of that dream butterfly is gone and you're in real life.
Right. But,
Aww,
yeah.
poor doctor.
But they do go back to the Enterprise, and we do have one of the most out-of-place scenes of the episode, or this conversation between
so confused.
Spock and Uhura. Yeah, it really... Well, let's talk about it. It stands out. It's like it sticks out like a sore thumb. And Spock, I think the point of this
interaction
in this scene is to introduce Spock as a Vulcan. I think that's because this is technically, again, this is the first episode that airs. This is the first episode that viewers are tuning into to watch Star Trek. So you have to step aside a little bit from the path to explain some things to the viewers.
True.
And I think that's the whole point of this scene is Spock being introduced to the viewer as an alien, as a Vulcan, doesn't have emotions.
Very cold.
And I think trying to introduce that concept to the viewer. This is someone, a character that is not going to express emotion. And it's not because the actor's a bad actor. It's because the character he plays represses their emotions as part of who they are.
Very factual.
Yeah.
And we also meet a very, I imagine for that time, a sexual being. Uhura? Did I say her name right? She's a beautiful lady. And
Uhura, yeah.
And she just is kind of like flirting with Spock. You know, you could say something nice to me instead of just saying ABC.
Yeah, but again, Spock.
He's like,
Nope, nips it in the bud.
Oh, yes, she wanted to be called an attractive young lady, and he's like, okay, next.
Next. Besides the fact that I don't express emotions, that's incredibly unprofessional, ma'am. I'm calling Starfleet HR.
But she is really pretty.
And then we get the intercom message that the away team has returned and someone has died.
And again, no emotion from Spock. He's like, oops.
And gets called out for it again. And again, it drives home the point to the viewer that Spock doesn't express his emotions. But again, so out of place of a scene.
But also, Uhura does go, I mean, the dead person could be your only friend, Captain Kirk.
True.
So that also gives me an insight, maybe just because I'm me, that there's a tiny bit of warmth in Spock that he does care about one person, or highly respects.
That's a good way to.
Does that make sense?
That's a good way to say it, because that
maybe not like beer buddies, but I got you, bro.
Yeah, and in a sense, that is an emotion that he's, in a way, conveying by showing respect and professionalism. So yeah, it frames the character to the viewer, I think.
But yeah, it makes no sense, like the whole interaction. But then they carry on Uhura's energy, I guess, throughout the entire episode. So do we expect that all the time? Is she always like this little vixen?
I seem to recall that, yes, this is going to be pretty much her character.
Okay. She's a professional vixen.
We'll go with that.
And then we jump from the bridge. I learned a word. To the infirmary, the doctor area.
Sick bay, yes.
Oh, that's a much easier thing to say.
I don't know when they start referring to it as the sick bay, but it becomes the term at some point in Star Trek. That is the sick bay. That's what I've always known it as.
Okay, that makes sense. And it's the doctor and captain are discussing, how did Darnell die? Like, what are these red things on his face? What's happening? And then, like, how could a plant do this? And then beep beep, Spock like pops in via an intercom, and he's like, well, on Earth, the plant Brosia is like a common nightshade.
Okay,
so like tomatoes.
That's where Brosia comes from. You're right.
Yeah, and I was like, I know what a nightshade is. And like in the tomato family, it's a plant. It's normally you don't die from it unless you're allergic. But they don't say anything about Darnell being allergic. So he should be healthy. And the plant shouldn't have killed him. So they're still confused.
Yeah, and there's mention that the red circles don't have any recorded examples of a type of plant causing that. McCoy also can't find any poison in his system. It doesn't look like he's been poisoned.
Yeah, they're confused. But then we go on to the next day because they're sad.
Before they do, McCoy mentions that he did notice at the end on the planet before they beamed up that Nancy looked different to him, that she now looked the way Kirk saw her and not 10 years younger like when they first parted. So
He finally admitted it instead of just keeping it in.
Right, and it's played off again that, oh, it was that first moment you saw her, you still have feelings for her, and then as the minutes passed and you saw her in the chaotic situation of finding Darnell's body, you actually saw her as she was, but we'll find out that's not the case.
No. But they take that as fact and scene.
Yeah, this is a little bit awkward of a scene transition here to lead up to the big reveal, but
Because it's the next day and the doctor did all these tests overnight, I'm presuming, and they find out that everything is normal except poor crewman Darnell has no salt whatsoever in his body.
yeah,
Wild.
and Kirk mentions that, well, they did keep asking about salt over anything else, and very obvious connection. Again, it's a very awkward scene transition to bring it about. They could have squeezed this into the previous scene discussing the plant itself, but for whatever reason, they chose to flip it and make it happen the next day.
Right, because then they beam back to the planet M113 with questions.
Of course they do.
And of course, the Professor Crater is like, seriously, just give me salt and go away.
Yeah.
And he shows again the bottle that's empty and how it's necessary. They have everything else they need. They don't need anything else, just one thing. And that's when Captain Kirk is like, let's do some more testing and more chatting. Come on to the Enterprise with us. Let's look into things. We could do more research.
Yeah, and keep them safe because they don't really know what's going on. They have some suspicions against Bob and Nancy. There's an unknown thing that has caused the death of a crew member. Even if it's not Bob and Nancy who caused it, they need to be made safe because they are citizens of the Federation, so that's their job.
I forgot to mention that they took 2 other crewmen with them back to the planet.
Well, yeah, because they're about to die.
Sturgeon and Green.
Sure. I know one of them's Green. I think the other one's Sturgeon.
Like a bird.
Yeah. They're not important enough to have names for long.
No, but he's the first one that we see that's dead, and it's kind of like he's just thrown away. Like we only see his body, and then Nancy pulls us over to crewman Green.
Yeah, it's another chaotic scene and keeping track of everyone. Nancy is outside alone. Bob runs away from Kirk and Spock inside of their home as Kirk and Spock are communicating with the Enterprise to start arranging transport service to get Bob and Nancy up to the ship. Bob runs away. Bob finds Sturgeon that Nancy has already killed, because at this point we know it's Nancy doing the killing. We pan over to see Nancy over Green, and that's where
she bites her thumb.
Because she realizes, I think, or she comes to understand that everything's very quickly unraveling for her.
And the crewmen haven't seen that crewman Green has actually died just yet. So she bites her thumb and is all weird and then takes his form.
Yeah, Nancy transforms to crewman Green.
Weird. I mean, the actor does a great job.
Yeah.
And so fake crewman Green, who is Nancy, I mean, in the story, she's run away also. Like she's there. And all the rest of the crew have beamed back to the Enterprise so that they could be quote unquote safe.
Yeah. At this point, Kirk is freaking out. Kirk and Spock have discovered Sturgeon. Bob is running around doing God knows what. Nancy's running around in their mind doing who knows what. And Kirk's like, we got to get the hell out of here before we all end up dead from whatever's happening. So Spock, Kirk, and crewman Green all go back to the Enterprise.
With Sturgeon's body.
With Sturgeon's body. Green is left on the planet because they don't know he's dead. And they figure they'll catch up with Bob and Nancy later, but they got to get the hell out of there.
Right. They've lived there enough. They can be safe until they figure it out.
Yes.
Don't eat the plants.
Don't eat the damn plants. Rule number 1.
So now we're poof back on the Enterprise again.
Yep, because that's the noise a transporter makes is poof.
Or beep beep. I don't know.
Close.
It's kind of like a toot toot toot. I'll work on my sounds.
Okay, we'll work on sounds.
So then this is when we get to meet my gal Janice. She is taking lunch to someone. And what's it called? A yeoman?
Yeoman?
Yeoman. And she's a yeoman, Janice. And, 2 random crew members are flirting with her. And she, leave me alone.
Again, another moment for Starfleet HR.
Yes. She pops into an elevator with the lunch as she's sprinkling salt on it. And Green/Nancy is like, oh, and jumps in with her.
Yeah. Nancy, again, disguised as Crewman Green now, is super creepy and obsessed with the salt. I think it's safe to say it's trying to imply that at least Yeoman Janice assumes that Green is just being flirty like the other 2 crew members. Like this is just.
But he's creepy.
He's being creepy, but she's taking it that he's not. He's not a threat or a monster or an alien. He's just being inappropriate like the rest of her coworkers.
Because she made when she was talking to Sulu, she was like, oh, he's Green is being like a weirdo. She made a different word, but it was basically like, I don't know what's in these boys today, kind of flippant sound phrase.
Right. But and Green doesn't do. We gotta come up with a different name for this guy. The monster. Let's just go with the monster.
Okay.
The monster, or we just keep calling him Nancy. The monster goes and follows the yeoman into the botany department, which is where we meet Sulu
and Gertrude.
Because it's the dinner, of course, is for Sulu.
And Sulu is the botanist, and it's just like a cute introduction. He and Janice seem to be friends.
Yes.
And while she gives Sulu his dinner, she is just, enjoying all of his weird looking plants. And she's like, they're going to reach out and grab me one of these days. And that's when this beautiful pink, imagine like a bird of paradise hydrangea thing.
Yeah, that's being overly generous. Imagine a hand puppet.
Well, it's cute. So Sulu thinks he gave it a man's name, and then Janice is like, no, this plant, her name is Gertrude. And I thought it was cute. Then they have some random conversation how every inanimate object is a female. And I was like, okay. Well, and then I'm like, oh yeah, boats we name after women usually.
Well, and the Enterprise, the ship, she's often referred to as a woman.
Oh. Yeah, so interesting.
Yeah. But again, the monster gets overly fixated with the dinner plate, specifically the salt, and your pal Gertrude, the plant, freaks the fuck out.
Poor thing.
Over the monster's presence, and the monster Green runs away.
Yeah, because Gertrude is basically tattling.
Yeah.
Because she was just, think of like a dog. Loving, getting loved. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And then some mean thing comes because they can tell, and she's frightened and kind of like goes in, like a turtle, goes inside her casing, for lack of better word.
That, yes.
See? I love Gertrude.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'll be her for Halloween.
Maybe we don't see Gertrude the rest of the series.
That'd be sad. So then we're popping back into the hallway because Janice is left. Sulu has his dinner. Nancy Green, we'll just call her Nancy Green. Nancy Green monster is in the hallway still looking for salt, and we see another elevator and
turbo lift.
Oh, is that what they're called? A turbo lift?
That's literally why we call it the turbo lift tease, because it's like an elevator pitch.
And it does say turbo lift on the screen. Oh, I missed it. So I'm dummy right there because they have everything labeled. So
Yeah,
the turbo
they
lift.
do label everything.
So they pop in the turbo lift to leave, but Uhura, I don't know, the sexy vixen comes out of the turbo lift after she flirts with the crewman,
Because this is the 60s and that's what television is.
Yes. But apparently she's like, ugh, white men, because they were white, Caucasian. But in her mind, she's thinking of a darker, beautiful man. And our monster can tell.
No. We decided Nancy Green
Nancy
Monster.
Green Monster can tell that that's her innermost desire, I guess. And he bites his thumb again and transforms into this beautiful, darker man. And Uhura is like, "Oh, crewman, have I met you before?" And he's like, "Maybe." And then they talk in Swahili, which I guess is her native language.
Yeah, I don't know that she's from an area of Earth that... I don't know if she grew up on Earth in an area that is still... I don't know, or if that's just her people, because again, this is...
A multi-diverse.
Yeah, this is the future. This hasn't turned into the giant melting pot where everyone is just from Earth. There still is ethnicities and cultures. So I don't know. That's her culture. That's where her people are from.
Well, she really enjoyed talking to him in Swahili.
Yes.
And they have like a connection.
Yes, but the spell, it's almost like Nancy Green Monster is hypnotizing her.
Yeah.
Which makes sense. That's how she is. That's how they are allowed to get so close to their victims to kill them. But the hypnosis is broken because then this is the hallway just outside the botany lab. Sulu and the yeoman exit the lab to go about their business. This whole time, the comms have been summoning her, so she's able to break away from Swahili Nancy Green
Seduction.
Monster and return to the bridge.
Thankfully. But the doctor is restless.
Back in his quarters.
Yes. And
because we don't get a captain's log to change scenes here.
No, it's just like we just jump into his quarters and he's trying to take a nap. And Captain Kirk pops on like a future FaceTime. And they're like, how are you doing, buddy? He's like, I'm just off. I don't know. Lack of better,
Well,
he's like, why don't you just take a nap?
Yeah, he's worried about Nancy is the ultimate explanation.
Oh, that's true. And then, but Captain Kirk is like, well, take a nap and take one of those red pills that you gave me last week. Then you really will sleep.
Yeah, the sleeping pills from the bartender doctor from last episode.
And they literally are red. Like, it's like a giant red pill bottle.
Like a candy. I honestly think that's what it is. I think that's the easiest way to portray futuristic medicine at this point is just candy.
I mean, it really does. Like those little, that box of fruit, the yellow box, juicy fruits.
Yeah.
That's what it looks like Captain Kirk's eating.
Yeah. Quick jump to the bridge where Spock tells Kirk that they've scanned the planet. They can find Bob, but they can't find Nancy within, I think they say 100 miles from this.
Like a radius.
Yeah, this dig point, this pyramid. So, again, a hint that Nancy is no longer, Nancy Green Monster is no longer on the planet. And then we pop back to McCoy's quarters where Nancy wanders in.
Yes, and she gets the doctor to take the sleeping pill and falls asleep. The doctor, not Nancy, Green Monster.
Mm-hmm.
And then this crazy lady, mean person, takes on the doctor's form.
Right, because now, and that's a good plot point. The doctor is now the real McCoy is
real McCoy. Sorry.
Yep, the real McCoy. If I had a sound effect for a rim shot, I would do it. He's knocked out in his quarters on sleeping pills, and so unlikely that he's going to people are going to run into him and Nancy Green Monster, now disguised as McCoy.
True, because he's out for the count.
Yeah, And at this point, they find another dead crewman with the red
Poor
circles.
guy.
So now,
And he's in a hazmat suit.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know if it was. I honestly don't know if that was supposed to be a radiation suit, if it was supposed to be a heat suit, some kind of protective suit. But whatever's happening on the planet to kill off the crew is now
Yeah.
on the spaceship.
So there's a lot of different uniforms in this show then.
Especially this early, there is a lot of uniforms and a lot of inconsistency with uniformity. No pun intended.
And I noticed a sidebar that
It's called a tangent.
Like I saw the bric-a-brac, you know, that cute little wavy stuff you buy at the craft store.
Yeah.
It's on Captain Kirk and Spock's uniforms at their wrist, and I'm like, I could totally make that.
Yeah, that is
It's like glued on.
That is the first version of rank for Star Trek.
Oh, I thought it was cute.
But it's not, again, it's not uniform. It changes throughout I think it even changes throughout the first season because again, this is not something that anyone was expecting or thinking that this would.
Right, it's just a pilot.
This is just a fun little campy sci-fi series. They weren't worried about, ooh, is the rank on the guy's sleeve the same as is right? Is it too many little stripes? Is it too few? Is it the wrong color? They don't give a damn at this point.
It was just cute.
Yeah.
And I noticed it because it was sparkly.
There you go.
Like, to be honest. But that's later on. But then we have another captain's log amendment, finally. And poor guy, Captain Kirk, is just exasperated. I know I just butchered that. He doesn't know how his crew people are dying.
Right.
And he just wants to stop it.
Yes.
Like, literally, just there's strange life forms among us.
Right. Yeah, they don't know what's going on. So Kirk and Spock go back down to the planet because they can't find Nancy on the scanners from the ship on the planet, but they know where Bob is. So they go down to confront Bob.
Because, according again to another amendment, Professor Crater has to have the answers because this happened after they met him.
Right.
So they're back on our dear planet M113, and Spock finds the original crewman Green's body.
Yes.
But while they're on the planet, there's an intruder alert on the Enterprise.
Right.
So there's like two problems going on.
Right, because this is in tangent with them discovering the dead crewman on the Enterprise that was in the quote-unquote protective suit.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, this is all happening very rapidly and in conjunction with each other.
And so they call an emergency meeting because what's happening? And Kirk, Spock, and everyone are back on the Enterprise. See, it's getting confusing for me because it keeps flipping back and forth.
Yeah, it jumps back and forth quite a bit.
How are they beaming all the time and not harming themselves? Like, that's like a legitimate, like, weird question I have in my head this whole time. But I know I'm weird. But we're back on the.
For those who can't see us because this is an audio podcast, I just stared at Jackie in the most baffling way. Because, yeah, how are they beaming back and forth without harming themselves, knowing full well there are going to be episodes where they absolutely get fucked up by the transporter?
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Oh, some of the best episodes are transporter failures.
So Gertrude comes back.
Nope. But it's good to dream. I'll tie up some of this real quick.
Yes, help me, please.
While Kirk and Spock are on the planet, they find crewman Green. They want to confront Bob. Bob refuses to get into a conversation with them. Bob is holed up on a hill shooting at them with a phaser. In and amongst all of that, Kirk gets the message from the Enterprise from Sulu that they found the dead crewman. There's a meeting on the bridge between Sulu, Yeoman, and Uhura, and Nancy Green Monster disguised as McCoy comes onto the bridge, overhears the conversation. So now Nancy Green Monster understands that her cover is slowly being unraveled, that they recognize that something's going on. overhears the conversation about Ahura meeting the crew member that spoke Swahili and not recognizing the crew member, and everyone found that to be strange. Back on the planet, Kirk and Spock flank Bob. They stun him with a phaser, and Bob shares, or at least comes clean about Nancy. Nancy Green Monster is now just Monster. The civilization that they are uncovering is of Nancy's people. Nancy is the last of their kind. And now we get
the buffalo.
The conversation and the comparison to the buffalo on Earth. Bob then confesses that Nancy died a couple of years ago. Bob buried her. And Bob, as an archaeologist, has been coinciding. That's the wrong word.
Cohabiting?
Bob has been cohabiting and living with the monster, who is taken on the form of Nancy for Bob, because while they do have this primal instinct driving them to survive, they're not just a heartless monster.
They too want friendship and love.
I'd like to think that that's part of it. I'd like to think that the monster isn't taking on Nancy's appearance for Bob simply as a way to constantly try to lure Bob into an unsuspecting state to then drain him of all of his salt. Clearly, that's where all the salt is gone, that Kirk and everyone was wondering why they went through the salt so quickly.
Right.
Bob has been keeping the monster alive with this supply of salt. But it could be the exact opposite. Editor Brian jumping in here for just a quick moment. For some reason, for the next quick section of the episode, my microphone seems to have had some audio issues, leading to some static popping noises, unfortunately. It does clear up very shortly, but I wanted to pop in and just thank you all for sticking with it, and our apologies for the annoying audio. Nancy could just be completely animalistic and have no higher brain power or function, and Bob has been cohabitating not so much as person to person, but
like a pet,
like a zookeeper is what I was thinking, a dangerous animal. And Bob has just been fortunate enough up to this point not to be killed by the creature.
Oh.
So these people that keep alligators as pets, as tigers as pets, or cheetahs or other exotic animals, that they, obviously the alligator is not so much developing feelings or anything like that. It's just the fact that you've been lucky up to this point. You've kept the damn alligator fed and hasn't come after you because it was hungry.
Right. And now that the monster is quote unquote free to roam around the Enterprise and whatever, it's just doing its instinct to stay alive itself. That's an interesting theory.
Yeah. So I don't know which it is, but in any case, to send it back over to you to wrap up this chaotic scene, Kirk radios back up to the Enterprise and shares with Sulu that the monster has the ability to shapeshift and it can be anyone, puts them all on alert. They all beam back up to the planet, Kirk, Spock, and Bob, and then we have the meeting in the conference room.
And our Dr. McCoy is still sleeping, so our monster, we still don't know who Nancy Monster Green is portraying. So they all assume that everyone in the meeting is quote unquote their, human form or real form.
Right.
And they discuss what's happening.
Yeah, so the monster is hiding in plain sight here.
And Spock has even said that he's placed out salt traps and no one has taken the bait, quote unquote.
Yeah.
And Kirk is like, Professor, you have to help us. Like, if you don't help us, I'm bringing up charges. Like, you are done.
Yeah, you're obligated to help us and identify the monster.
Yeah, I'm sorry you have feelings, but They're killing people.
Yeah, so which leads to the quick little question. Does Bob know that McCoy is the monster in the room? Does Bob know that? There's, I think, a half-second shared eye contact between Bob and the monster in the room. I think Bob knows at this point that the monster has assumed McCoy's form. And I think the monster knows that too.
That would make sense since they've been together for so long.
That's the only thing I can think of. I mean, that could also be the argument against it, is the only reason Bob knew who the monster was anytime the monster walked into the room, even though it was Nancy, is because Bob knew Nancy was dead. So for all we know, it could go either way. I like to believe for the story, it makes it more interesting if Bob is refusing to cooperate in front of the monster, showing the monster where the loyalty lies, because what happens in the next scene.
He doesn't want to die.
He doesn't want to die, but I think it shows that Bob is committed to the monster, that Bob is completely sympathetic to the monster's survival.
Yes. So Spock was like, or Kirk's like, both of them, F that. We're going to do truth serum.
Yeah, they're going to forcibly use the truth serum on Bob, which...
And we're going to make you tell us.
Very anti-Starfleet, in my opinion, but
it's necessary.
Sure.
And but we need the doc for this. So come on, Doctor / Monster Green.
Right.
And then we're in the sick bay, and Spock is on the bed, and our dear friend Bob, Professor Crater, is dead.
Yeah, again, another awkward way to handle the scene transition. Understandably, they don't show what transpires, but Spock explains that when they came down to use the truth serum, McCoy revealed themselves to be the monster and attacked Spock, knocked out Spock, and then the alligator turned on its owner, and the monster kills Bob.
Sadly. And then Spock's like, and my blood just ain't, it didn't want my blood, so I'm alive. Yay.
Yeah.
And he has like a head wound, but that'll be fine. And then so now we have to go get the real doctor. Are you still sleeping? Are you dead?
Well, Nancy, I keep calling her Nancy, the monster, after killing Bob, runs to probably what they assume is the only safe haven left on the ship, which is the sleeping McCoy in their quarters. So Nancy goes back to McCoy's quarters, wakes up McCoy
in the Nancy
form, to be fair, and is begging McCoy to protect her. That's when Kirk comes in,
and he is with him. He has salt tablets,
right? Because McCoy doesn't buy any of this. McCoy has been sleeping throughout.
He has no idea what's happened.
All of the major revelations, the dead crewmen on the ship, the meeting. McCoy is passed the hell out, and no one thought to go wake McCoy because the monster was running around disguised as McCoy.
He was there, yeah.
Yeah.
And so he has no idea. He's trying to protect Nancy, and Kirk's like, "Look, I have salt. It is going to kill you to get this, and then he's going to kill everybody else." And poor Dr. McCoy is overcome, and the monster attacks Kirk after he takes the salt and like hypnotizes him, or starts trying to take over his body. And McCoy is stunned, of course, but Spock comes in and starts beating up the monster.
Well, Spock doesn't just beat up the monster. Spock beats the crap out of Nancy. Yes. That's what McCoy sees. McCoy's standing there in the corner watching Kirk freak out because Nancy has hypnotized him and tried to Kirk is hypnotized. Spock comes in, beats the crap out of Nancy. Nancy beats the crap out of Spock in return and knocks him across the room. And then Nancy goes back to try to get Kirk's precious salt and turns into the monster.
So gross. Like, that's why we could see the little red circles. It's her hands turn into tentacles with suction cups.
So, side tangent, do you think that the red marks on all the dead bodies were from the suction cups on the hand or from the disgusting mouth?
Both, because we see her line up her hands on the side of the face, but maybe, like that third eye space on the forehead, that's where her gross mouth goes.
Yeah, I didn't think about it being both because they are different sizes, which
Because
is
she lines it up.
yeah. So that has to be how they're sucking the salt out is through the forehead.
So,
So
like, imagine the monster looks like someone in that giant ghillie suit from the military
yeah, that's a good way to describe it.
with a gross face.
And it is the only time that we see this monster in its true form.
Yeah, and then it dies and it's a pile of fur.
Well, and that is Kirk lets out that really god awful scream. Again, good acting.
Yeah,
McCoy figures it out, or
he has to.
McCoy at least recognizes that the shit has hit the fan and he's got to do something. So McCoy shoots the monster. The monster falls down, turns back into Nancy to beg one more time, and McCoy has to shoot Nancy,
His love.
which is a terrible, terrible way to go. But we kill the monster. We all end up back on the ship or the bridge for the closing, and Kirk gives the good ending line here.
I was thinking about the buffalo, and then says where they're going next.
Yeah, and then they just continue on and roll credits. So, Jackie, what did you think about season 1, episode 1, The Man Trap?
I enjoyed it. I understood what I was watching. For not knowing anything sci-fi except for what little SG1 that we watched, I am glad that we started this season, and it's a bit easier for my brain to catch on. So I am looking forward for the future.
Yeah.
I want to know more about Uhura or Uhura, whatever.
This is a good episode. It's an okay episode. I'll give it an okay rating. It definitely is more along the lines of what I think the episodes of Star Trek will be. I think this is simple in its form. It is certainly not one of the milestone episodes of Star Trek. This is definitely more known, I think, by Star Trek fans because it is the quote unquote first episode. I think if this was later on in season 1 or buried in the middle of season 2, this would not be such an iconic episode. But that image of the salt monster is very iconic, just like the eventual, we'll come back to them, but the big brain people from the last week's episode, the cage, that we'll see again later that we talked about, becomes so iconic. Even though nothing else from this episode, the Man Trap, really lives on as such an iconic moment, that salt monster is just one of the things that fans still talk about or think about when they think of early original series Star Trek.
Well, he did a great job with the costuming itself.
Yeah, and too bad they only showed it for one moment. But I have, as always, some fun facts, or as we like to call them, tribble tidbits to the episode. And why do we call them tribble tidbits, Jackie?
Because tribbles are great.
Because Jackie is obsessed with tribbles. Airing first September 8th, 1966. Fun fact, it aired in Canada September 6th, 1966. Back then, in the 60s, kids, listen up, all of television came across airwaves, not cable.
Whoa.
So it was a frequent thing for Canada to air American television 2 days before it aired in America, so that Canadians would tune in to the Canadian broadcast of an American television show and watch the actual Canadian sponsors. Otherwise, people would just tune in to the American version of the show. So Canada would preempt the showing by a couple days to get Canadian viewers to tune in to Canadian broadcast companies. So I thought that was interesting. Canonically, this episode takes place 11 years after The Cage, last week's episode.
But not technically, just in like the show timeline.
Correct.
Oh, okay.
So the events of The Cage.
11 years after Captain Pike.
Correct.
Okay.
Because they will, in order to make sense of it all, again, we're going to come back to Captain Pike and the events of The Cage in a future episode.
Oh, okay.
They're going to tie it all back in.
Cool.
This is the first episode to air in Star Trek, but it is the 6th episode produced, meaning they filmed 5 other episodes before this. NBC made the decision to air this first because it had more action. They chose this episode as the first episode to try to draw viewers in. So the other
So it was not supposed to be the pilot?
It's not really, it's not the pilot in itself. It is not the episode that really sold the series, but NBC ordered the show after they refilmed and pitched new ideas and new stories for the show. And then NBC got to pick and choose kind of what order some of those episodes aired in. It's not an
It's not like a soap opera. It's all kind of individual episodes, stories.
Correct.
Oh, that makes sense.
It's not something that generally happens later on in a television series, but when a television show first airs, it's not an unheard of practice for the network to choose a more exciting episode and air it out of order than what the show creator first envisioned. Most famously, the television show Firefly, the train job was the first episode that aired because it had the exciting scenes of robbing the train, but it was not the first episode that was intended. It was the 3rd episode.
Huh.
And a lot of people thought it was confusing because they didn't film it in that order. So it didn't really work, but it happens.
Interesting.
For props, the medical scanners, the handheld devices that McCoy uses in the pyramid, they're actually salt and pepper shakers. They were purchased by the show because they were originally going to use those on the dinner trays. But they looked so weird, and they were artistic salt and pepper shakers. They were not standard salt and pepper shakers. They bought them thinking, oh, in the future they're going to use weird shit. But they looked so weird on camera that they changed it all up and they used them as the medical scanners, and they just found actual salt and pepper shakers to use on the TV tray.
Janice uses like that Parmesan cheese shaker you get at the pizza place.
Yes.
For her salt.
No. She uses an actual salt and pepper shaker.
Look then.
No, because they grabbed it from the cafeteria.
Oh, cool. The more you know.
This is only one of 2 episodes in the original series of Star Trek where a female crew member is seen wearing uniform pants. Every other time, except this and one other time, they're all wearing those dresses for the uniform. This episode boasts a count of 7 dead bodies. Kind of interesting. Also, our friends the buffalo, when this was filming in 1966, the buffalo was very close to extinction, but after, the buffalo have had a rebound, and by 2010, in real life, their population had rebounded to be between 400,000 and 500,000 on the planet. So they don't currently face the same threat of extinction as in the 60s. They're still, of course, not very prominent. They're still, I think, listed as a form of to be under observation, but they're not facing extinction. They're not a threatened species
That's
anymore.
a really cool connect to real life.
Yep. The human body contains sodium and chloride as separate ions. These are the ions that make salt. The body doesn't actually just have a bunch of salt that are together in the body.
Correct.
So unlike table salt. So for the monster to be consuming salt, it has to have the ability to combine those ions or separate those ions because they're taking salt tablets. So
It might have the condition POTS then.
Yeah, so it's that's not an uncommon feature, but it just points out that they could have been a little bit more technical in describing what the monster was doing. So, and our final fun factor triple tidbit: the BBC in across the pond in the UK, when this episode first aired there on their networks, the BBC edited out most of the fight between Spock and Nancy beating the crap out of each other. They also edited out Kirk's final scream when it first aired. They deemed it was too inappropriate for sensitive viewers, so they censored the
Yikes.
episode. Not the first time the BBC has edited an episode of Star Trek.
Oh, really?
No, there's well, I don't they didn't even edit it. There's an episode.
Compared to what we see nowadays. Yikes.
Yeah, there's an episode of The Next Generation that did not air originally on the BBC, specifically because one of the characters, and we'll cover it eventually when we get to The Next Generation, makes an offhand comment to history in the Star Trek mythos that Ireland and Northern Ireland reunified.
Oh.
And the BBC did not like that. They thought that would be too
Rough.
troubling for their viewers, so they didn't air the episode originally. So.
Softy.
But those are your Tribble tidbits. And to almost close out the show, this is the part of the episode where we rank the episode for the week. We pretend that the episode is a member of our crew of our fictitious Starfleet ship, and we assign the episode a rank based on how much we enjoyed the episode. A higher rank, or not. A higher rank means we enjoyed the episode and consider the episode a more important and valuable member of our crew. A lower rank episode means that we believe that they're a less important member of our crew. We didn't like the episode quite as much. Last week, I ranked the Cage as a lieutenant, I believe, if I recall correctly. And Jaci did not like the episode at all and ranked it at the very bottom of an ensign.
No glitter.
We, of course, can promote or demote different episodes as needed. Jaci, what would you give the rank for this week's episode, The Man Trap?
The Man Trap is a straight old lieutenant. Like, I knew what I was doing. I really liked the monster's costume and all the glittery spots that I found on the costumes and the uniforms.
And for our audio listeners, that is the third rank that is above a lieutenant junior grade and above an ensign. I'm going to give this episode a lieutenant commander, one rank above Jaci. This is going to be, again, it's the first episode. It's got an on-point plot, very in tune to what Star Trek is, without being overly complicated, without being special, for lack of a better term. So, looking elsewhere on the ranking systems, IMDb currently lists The Man Trap as a 7.2 out of 10. If we were to translate that into our Starship ranking, that would be about where I'm at, a lieutenant commander. So, just an average episode. We, of course, encourage all listeners to check out our Patreon page at Treks and Tangents. That's patreon.com/Treks and Tangents, where we will post a graphical layout of our rankings for you all to look at. We'll post that a day or two after this episode goes live, so it doesn't spoil the ranking.
Can they tell us their items also on our Instagram and whatnot?
Sure.
That'll be fun.
Absolutely. Everyone should leave a comment wherever you're listening to this or on our socials as to what you thought the episode ranked. Feel free to use our ranking system that we post or just a simple number 1 to 10. So we'll be back next week to trek through another episode. But first, we're going to give our turbo lift tease or elevator pitch to the next episode's plot. I will give Jaci the title of the next episode, and Jaci, with no other information, will give a brief pitch to the plot. Jaci already knows the name of the episode because, again, she thought she was watching this episode this week. So, Jackie, next week's episode is Charlie X.
I have no idea. Whenever I hear a name and then an X, that means somebody doesn't have an identity. So we might be introduced to a young person and then have to help them figure out who they are.
All right. And we'll see how close your prediction is next week. If you want more show information, you can find and directly support our podcast at Patreon at patreon.com/Treks and Tangents. Again, you can see us posting our episode rankings each week. We also have available all of our test episodes that we recorded for this podcast, edited down to a somewhat professional level. I think at the moment I am just behind and I have 2 more episodes I need to finish uploading. So there's about 15 episodes that we recorded as a test to this. We, of course, have ideas and plans for more content for our Patreon followers that we will introduce and talk about as those plans come together.
You can listen to all my ums and what am I doing?
No, we edit that out as much as I
Aw.
can. I try my best to edit all that out. The dead space where we just sit
I
here.
had to learn a lot.
We sit here and we stare at each other and we've got these looks on our face like, what are we talking about? Yeah, we try to edit all that out. So you can also follow us on X at Treks_Tangents. We're also on Instagram and Blue Sky as Treks and Tangent. Jackie, where can people find you and what you are up to?
I am on Instagram mostly and Facebook, but Instagram is where I hail as Jaboom. That's JIBBOOM. And I'm on there playing my musical instruments. I play the tuba and flute and piccolo, and amongst others, I have my service animals, disability awareness, and of course, weight loss and how to dress for that new cute body of yours.
And you can watch me stream a variety of video games over at twitch.tv/PiratePoundTown. On YouTube, I post video games and other random content on my main channel, Pirate Pound Town. And I've finally paid some more attention to my secondary channel where I do coin collecting and other hobby content that can be found on YouTube at Pirate Treasure Hunting. Socially, you can find me on Blue Sky at Pirate Pound Town. And finally, you can find me on Instagram under Pineapple Cannibal because I am proudly banned from Instagram as Pirate.
I forgot. I now play World of Warcraft.
That's true.
Boop, boop.
Jackie has ventured into World of Warcraft like I have. We don't post any of that content as of this recording.
I'm still learning.
Yeah, as my producer brain works, we're gonna come up with some different ideas. Maybe we'll start up a Twitch channel under Treks and Tangents, and that's where you'll see Jackie streaming. But that's all plans for the future. Nothing solid yet. But Jackie has dived into World of Warcraft.
My character Prot is kicking booty.
Yes, your level 8 huntress that eventually will get out of the starting zone.
Well, when she gets more glitter.
Yes. Links to all of our social media can be found in the episode description. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to this episode. We hope you had fun like we did, and we will see you all next week.
Pew, pew, pew.